Everybody's patience as we try our new normal. It looks like I think we have a quorum based on that count, and thank you all for logging in. At least we were able to see who's all logged in, so that made it easy to see. So I don't think we need to go through the roll call process. I was hoping we could use the conversation or chat feature to request to speak, but that does not look like that is working for everybody, and it's not even working that easily for me. So if we could all just be a little patient and try to leave a little space when we're done speaking so someone else can let Mike know when they want to speak, that will help. And Mike, I guess I'll let you try to run it. I'm going to try to have the packet or the agenda follow your conversation as you run through the meeting.
Okay. So we'll call the meeting to order then. What time is it? 6:03, I think I have on my computer. So the first order is, well, Charlie, we don't do roll call, right? Because we have the list of people.
Yeah, Amy, as long as you got everybody.
Well, telephone numbers, I don't know if we actually confirmed. Like, is Tony Miklas here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm present.
We have Allison. Jackie Murphy?
Yes.
Hey, Amy, let me interrupt. Why don't we've got names of most people, then we got the telephone number. So can we just kind of go through what the telephone numbers and see who they are?
Yeah, that's great.
You want me to do it or you want to do it? I'll do it. So I've got 802-355-6196.
That is Chris Roy.
802-425-5061. I assume that's you, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. And I have 434-4779.
Barbara Elliott.
Then I have 622-1295.
That's VTrans, Matt Langham and Amy Bell.
And I have 658-2478.
That's me, Andy Montrell.
Okay. 734-9217. That again, 734-9217.
The person may have their microphone muted.
What's that? Oh.
They may have their microphone muted. Oh, wait a minute, on phone, probably not.
Yep, Justin, sorry, I was muted and on my navigation app.
Okay. The next one I have is 862-6632.
That's Don Mills.
Okay. Then and 899-1235.
That's Catherine. Yes.
That's all I have. Well, I've got the 908-332-8. Oh, that's television, right?
Okay, that's great. The only one I didn't have was Justin. Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, so then we'll move on to, Charlie, you're going to talk about the COVID-19 response?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, well, as you can tell, we're trying to do things a little differently. Can people mute? Or wait, I'm going to mute you all. There we go. Sorry about that. If anybody wanted to talk, you'll have to signal a different way. So in terms of our response, we have closed our office to visitors, and staff are almost 100% working at home. The other piece in terms of our work is that we are supporting the towns really by tracking what all of the towns are doing. And so we have on our homepage, you'll see a link to kind of a COVID-19 response for each of what the towns are doing. And that's the link that you see here on the agenda. If you want to see what other towns are doing or your town and the latest information we have, it's all in that link. And other than that, we are just trying to minimize in-person meetings. That so far, that seems like we'll be able to do that pretty successfully. Thankfully, there are no planning emergencies or planning requirements that we really have to do. And this meeting is one of the few things we're trying to do, really partly to test it out, but also because thankfully you're all cooperating and we're not having to have an in-person meeting. So thank you for that. Happy to take any questions, if there are any. And I think you're all unmuted now, I hope. Or not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I've got a button here that allows me to unmute. I don't know if you all can see that, but just trying to help somehow.
Yep.
I have no comment, but just wanted to throw that out there.
yeah, I could hear you, Tony. Okay. Mike, are you able to talk?
Can you hear me, Charlie? I'm trying.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Yeah, my phone told me to press *6 to unmute.
Okay.
I'll move we approve the minutes from the February 19th meeting with Catherine's adjustments. Yeah,
I guess we're moving on to item 4 then.
I am, or we're going to be here all night.
Thanks, Jeff.
Barbara
Is there a
Elliott,
second?
second to approve the minutes.
That was Jeff.
Any comment? Any corrections? Hearing none. Charlie, should we do this roll call wise or just ask for?
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, now we can.
Oh, good. I have just a couple comments. The phone was ringing at the same time. We have too many lines. I'm going to have to figure out how to get rid of that. But on line 38, it's probably page 2. No, page 3. We have the HSI report, HSIP. That's probably useful to have written out for the public. I mean, we did it in the executive committee, and that would be good to, if somebody was reading, what does that mean? And then on page 2, again, we talk about line 12, AID grants. If somebody was reading from the public, they wouldn't know what an AID grant. I mean, just need to do the first AIDs, and the rest everybody would understand.
Yep.
Any other comment? Okay, hearing none, I guess we're going to have to go through the roll, Charlie, you think, to get the vote, or just ask?
This is Jackie. Could I make a suggestion? Just
Sure.
ask if there's any opposition.
Okay, that's a good idea. So any opposition, if you oppose, please announce it now.
And now
Hearing
ask for
none,
abstentions.
Any abstentions?
I'm sorry, Jackie, were you trying to say something?
I had just suggested that if there
Yeah.
was any opposition, ask for that and assume affirmative, if not. And then Jeff added the abstentions, which is a good idea.
And so I heard no objections and I heard no abstentions. So we're going to assume that it was passed unanimously. Okay, I'm gonna go back to item 2 that we skipped over, which is public comment. I don't believe there's any public online, but
I'm sorry. Someone just joined the meeting. I just need to know who I just let into the meeting. Could whoever just joined the meeting just identify yourself? Okay, I'm not sure who just joined.
Okay.
Well, somebody might have dropped off too.
No, because I have to actually click on letting them in, and I clicked on to let them in, and it was just a telephone number, but I don't remember which number it was.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. So going back, if there's any member of the public that's on this conference, if you have anything you want to comment on, please do so now. All right, hearing none, we'll go on to item 5, which is the public hearing for the US 7 signal upgrades, Shelburne, South Burlington, major tip amendment. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Who is that, please?
Dan Karen.
Seconded, Chris Shaw.
Anyone opposed to opening the public hearing? Any abstentions? Okay, the public hearing is open. Are there any folks from the public who want to comment? Okay, I'll leave the public hearing open as we discuss this. Charlie, is Christine going to give a little background, or someone going to give a little background on this?
You got a presentation on this last month, so we were not going to give you any further presentation than what you heard last month.
Okay, okay.
Mike, this is Jeff. I just was curious how much fiscal constraint dollars we have left for this year after this, should this amendment be approved.
Jeff, Christine here. I know you asked for that last month, and apologies that in this craziness I didn't get that table put together. But the answer is that we don't have, this will take up the fiscal constraint. I think we might have a little bit left after this, but we are working on the new tip, so we will be reshuffling the dollars. So as of July 1, we'll have a new constraint limit.
So just so everybody knows, we would have to push something out that's currently within our fiscal constraint if we were to do anything else before the end of the fiscal year. And considering COVID-19, that's probably not an issue. But I'd still be interested in the data, Christine. You know, when you're able to get it done. I just want to know where we are.
Yeah, I have that table, and I can send it to you after this meeting.
Well, it should go to all board members so they know. That's yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
I move we close the public hearing. This is Jeff.
Is there a second?
Second. Dan Karen, second.
Dan again?
Yes, Dan Karen, second.
Anyone opposed to closing the public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve the tip amendment for the US 7 signal upgrades between Shelburne and South Burlington.
That was Jeff. Is there a second?
Dan Karen, second.
Any discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none, again, I'll ask anyone opposed to the motion, please say so now.
This is an MPO item, so only the MPO members vote, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Not voting.
So Charlie, should we do a roll on this one?
This is Garrett.
No, I don't think we need to do that as long as everyone votes in the same manner, votes, if there are any exceptions, then we'll have to go through a roll call.
Okay. So anyone opposed to the motion, please state that now. Any abstentions? Hearing none, we're going to say that this passed unanimously. Okay. Next item is the FY22 VTrans Capital Program Prioritization. Christine, I think, are you going to present something?
I am. And do you guys see the slides? My slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
So this was a presentation that I put together before we decided to go through this, before we decided to go online. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. This is our annual project prioritization. We do this every year. VTrans requires that we do this. The legislature requires that we do this. So I'm just going to say a little bit of how we do it and what the results were. Am I talking too quickly?
No, you're good.
Okay. So the Vermont Legislature requires VTrans to prioritize projects in the capital program. And they have asked the RPCs to have input into that prioritization. So it's a combination of VTrans scores and RPC scores that make up the whole project score. And really the RPCs are looking at the functional importance of the facility economically and socially. And the RPCs all have their own methodology for doing these. So specifically what the RPCs are supposed to be looking at, according to the legislature, excuse me, is the impact on congestion, mobility, the availability of alternative routes, the importance in the local, regional, or state economy, the importance in social and cultural life, conformance to local and regional plans, and also local support for the project. So the list of projects that we're scoring, just important to keep in mind, these are the projects that are in the VTrans Transportation Capital Program. It's a slightly different list than the projects that are in the TIP, but these are the state's budget. So this process is helping the state to develop their budget for state fiscal year 2022. And so this is all transportation projects in the Transportation Capital Program. So just a little 101 on the Transportation Capital Program. Projects are in 3 different lists in the capital program. The front of the book are the projects that have specific dollar amounts. You'll see in this table, there's specific funding amounts for each of the 4 years of the capital program. And these projects are expected to have construction within the 3 years of this capital program. And then there are also projects in something called the Development and Evaluation List. And this is a list of projects that are being developed. And so there are some dollars devoted to them, but they don't have a construction schedule that's identified. And then the third list are candidate projects. And these projects they exist. VTrans might be doing some project development work on them, but the time frame is not predictable for when they're going to be, or I should say the construction year is unknown for these projects. So prioritization, we're prioritizing all projects on one of those 3 lists, and all 3 of those lists in the Transportation Capital Program. And we prioritize according to categories, so we don't do all of the projects together. The roadway projects are separate from the traffic and safety, they're separate from the paving, park and ride, state highway bridge, town highway bridge. And then we also do town highway bridge pre-candidates. And we don't decide where these projects go in these categories. That's determined by VTrans. So the methodology that's used to do this considers the physical condition of the asset, whatever the project is, the cost per user, the project momentum, meaning is it moving along? Does it have permit issues? Does it have right-of-way issues? Are there things that could have a potential to slow down the project. And then the regional priority is what we do that's worth generally 20% of the score for all of the projects. And then VTrans has different methodologies for each of their programs. And then the RPC scoring, we have our own scoring system that is looking at these 7 categories. I think they are here. And we score projects either high, medium, low, or no impact. Projects get a score under each of those categories. So if you guys don't have your board packets in front of you, you're not going to be able to see this, obviously. This was in the board packet, but these were just meant to be a sample of the scoring sheets. And there are specific criteria written for each one. We would go through it. If whatever conditions apply to the project, you check the box. Each project gets 1 score for each planning factor, and those are added up for the overall project score. And so the projects that do well using this methodology, projects that access growth areas, airports, and tourism facilities, projects that improve safety in a location with a documented safety problem, especially if it's a high crash location, bike ped facilities making intermodal, regional connections, or accessing designated growth areas, reconstruction projects with critical need, or improving corridors with significant congestion. So also in the packet were the actual scores. This is the ranking of the roadway program. It's very similar to what it was last year. The US 2 Industrial Avenue is number 1. And I think if you look at all the columns, these are how they score in the individual categories, and those would relate to the numbers. And if you want to talk about any of these specific projects, I'm happy to talk about it. Traffic operations and safety. The number 1 was the Exit 14 signals upgrade project that has a lot of high crash locations and congestion. Should I stop here?
Sure, take questions.
And then the next slide is paving. We only had 1 state highway paving project on the list this year. We don't score interstate paving projects. And then the town highway bridges. There's 5 town highway bridges in the program. 4 of them are on the candidate list, and 1 is in the front of the book. So those are the regular project scores. We also score town highway bridge pre-candidates, and what these are is projects that are going to move into the capital program in the candidate list. So from this list, I would point out the final column in this table is the VTrans rank. So most of our projects are not super high on VTrans's list. So adding our scores to their scores is still going to not bring it up to the top of the list. But these are where our projects ranked using our methodology, with the number 1 being a Huntingdon Bridge, followed by Shelburne Bridge, and on down the list. So that's it. Are there any questions on that?
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff. I would move we accept the staff recommendation as reviewed and approved by the TAC. And forward those.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Barbara Elliott.
Any questions, comments?
It's a very, very, very comprehensive view. It's very difficult, I know, for staff to do. And, we are a small part of the overall state score, but I applaud the difficult work done by the staff.
Thanks, Jeff. Any other comments? Hey, Charlie, I'm wondering for these MPO things if we should go through the roll.
go through.
Like only if they're not unanimous.
Okay. Amy, you buy that? I just want to make sure for the MPO stuff that we're doing this correctly.
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we heard the motion. There's any other comments? Hearing none. Anyone who's opposed to the motion, please tell us now. Anyone wishing to abstain? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item is Clean Water Service Provider Draft Proposal Update. Charlie? And Dan, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep. Yeah, so really just wanted to give you a little bit of an update of that the conversation is really continuing. There isn't a significant update. We, I think are maybe having a few more concerns with how DEC is potentially going to work with these organizations. So we're continuing to meet with them every 2 weeks as part of their advisory group to work that out. The Basin 5, which is the direct to lake, includes the area, along the lake in Chittenden County and Grand Isle and up into Franklin. Still seems like the partners there are supportive of us moving ahead to be the applicant if we want to do that. And the meeting for the Winooski Watershed Partners is next week, which we'll be conducting in a similar manner as this meeting. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see if any partners there are interested in being the provider for that watershed. But sorry, it's a little more negative report than maybe I gave you last month, just because some new information's been coming to light that's concerning me about DEC's expectations on these providers and kind of the stance that they're taking with regards to the relationship is a little less partnership oriented and a little bit more, I was going to say regulatory, but I'm not sure that's the right word. So anyway, just a little bit more concerned, I think, with that relationship situation than I was last month. Happy to take any questions.
Charlie, is there has the deadline been moved, or is it still, as I recall, I thought it was April or early May?
The deadline to submit is in early May. So actually, this is a good topic, Mike. We had been thinking that this was going to come to the board for potential action at your next meeting, which of course, as we get further, we were hoping to maybe not have a meeting in April. So, I don't know if this is something that the board really wants to review a month from now in detail, or if you want to delegate to the executive committee. But I do think that we are going to need some sort of action in April or early May from the board or executive committee before we are to move forward.
Charlie, this is Garrett. I do find it concerning. You're saying that it's coming across as a little more regulatory. Does that mean it's going to be more of the state telling us what we have to do, or maybe could you expound on that a little bit, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, I think it just, so right now there's a clean water service, there's a clean water block grant program going on that is getting run through Southern Windsor Regional Planning Commission. And just some concerns came up where I heard last week that DEC had concerns about what one of the people, I'll call it a sub-grantee, if you will, a partner, was doing in one of the watersheds, and whether what they were doing was completely appropriate. And I think and this is a really basic issue. When DEC discovered they had a concern, they didn't just call Southern Windsor and say, hey, we're concerned about what one of the people you're subbing some dollars to is doing. Would you please look into it further? And it took a lot of weeks, and before there was a meeting, and kind of the thing escalated in what should have probably been handled, in my mind, in the first place by a phone call. And so it's now turned into a situation where it's not just an issue with that one particular subgrantee. Now there's, I don't know, tens of contracts, payments that have been held up for more than a month, 2 or 3 months. And so it was not really the right way to approach the situation, from my view. And so anyway, we're having more conversation this Friday with DEC staff, and I'm hoping to get more reassurances that that kind of thing won't be happening in the future. But I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy right now.
Thank you. That helps me understand better. Hopefully you can get them to approach it more humanely.
Yeah, and they were right to raise the flag. I don't have any issue at all about them raising the flag. It's just instead of calling, the responsible party at the other RPC, they kind of held on to it, and I think it was generating into a much larger issue in their mind the longer that they held on to the issue, instead of just confronting it and let's get to the bottom of it together. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and
Don,
I guess any other thoughts about whether this is a pretty important issue and step if we go into this business. How are people's feelings in terms of, is this worth having a board meeting a month from now to talk about and get into more detail? Or do you want to delegate it to the executive committee to make that decision about go or no go?
Charlie, this is Mike. I wonder if Don has anything from the quack to add to this. Don still there? Charlie, it looks like the quack did look at this and discuss this at their last meeting. What would be last or 2 weeks ago?
Right.
Any input that you can provide in terms of what they're looking at, and will they have a chance to look at this again or discuss it again before we need to make a final determination?
Yeah, they actually have 2 meetings because they meet the first Tuesday of the month. So they'll meet the first Tuesday in April and the first Tuesday in May. So they'll have 2 more chances to take a look at it.
Okay. And the executive committee will meet in April and early May before we have to make a decision?
Yes.
Kind of on my calendar.
This is Garrett. Could I toss something in?
Please.
Possibly because we have these virtual meetings now, possibly open one, see who shows up next month and let them ask questions and give input, and not make it a quorum needed thing in case not that many people care, but that way the people who are concerned about it can participate further.
Well, I guess if this is something we have to vote on, we will have to have a quorum.
I didn't realize we had to vote then. Got it.
Well,
unless right, Charlie,
well, this is Jeff. Unless we specifically take an action to designate it the authority to commit the organization to the executive committee, like another warning of a public hearing item later on down in the agenda. This is Jeff. And
Yep.
I would be comfortable with Garrett's suggestion from the standpoint of the executive committee, getting more sense of the board information from the people who are really, engaged in thinking about this from the standpoint of the good of the organization. I would be comfortable doing that, and then having this opportunity, the call-in, participate this way opportunity on a voluntary basis for the purposes of giving the executive committee any other information individual board members think they should have when they make the decision.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Good idea, Jeff.
Yeah. So do you want to make that a motion, Jeff, to throw the power over the executive committee to make the determination?
I would move that the board approve the executive committee to make the final determination on whether or not the CCRPC participates in the clean water service provider process as currently unfolding with the State Department of Environmental Conservation.
I'll second that. This is Garrett.
Any discussion?
this is Garrett again. I'm hoping that the executive committee might be able to figure out a way to get input from people who are interested, such as Don or myself.
This is Dan Albrecht, just a comment.
Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I'm working on a draft of the proposal right now, and Charlie and Regina and I will discuss it next week, and then that way the exec committee will be able to look at it first week of April, and then the QUAC will look at it on April 7th. And then hypothetically, there's 2 more cracks in the first week of May because the proposal is not due until May 8th.
Yeah. Dan, this is Jeff. I'm comfortable with that as long as at some point in time it's either, communicated to the board through an email or, and we make everybody aware of it, or we have that, if we have no board meeting in April, that it's a workshop for interested board members to discuss where we are in terms of this particular issue. I would be interested in participating in that workshop myself.
Yeah, I think certainly after the QUAC meeting and any edits to be made there, and we'll get feedback from some of the partners as well too, that we've identified through the meeting we had in Milton and discussions with them. We'll get some feedback from them. So I imagine a month from now, mid-April, we'll have a pretty robust draft.
Okay, so this is Mike. So what we'll do is then, assuming this motion passes, the executive committee at our next meeting will discuss when we have this a workshop. So we open it up and get input from board members on the topic.
And Mike, if it's okay with you and the rest of the board, we'll plan on doing that on our regular board meeting time. We'll just, since it's on everybody's calendar, we'll just, may not be an official board meeting, but at least we can workshop the topic and hear from everybody who's interested.
Right. That sounds good. Is everyone okay with that?
This is Jackie. Sounds good.
Okay. So as to the motion that Jeff made, is there any further comments? So hearing none, I would ask anyone who's opposed to the motion to please let us know. Anyone who wants to abstain, please let us know. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Legislative update. Charlie?
Yeah, so I thought this was going to be really substantive and a lot of deep conversation was going to be needed on a lot of topics. However, this has been overtaken by COVID-19 response. So to the best of my knowledge, all of these particular substantive bills are really being deferred in deference to responding to COVID. And so I'm not, at this point, I don't even think that there will be any action taken on any of these. The only thing that I'm hearing that is being discussed, aside from just the budget, I think they'll vote on the money bills. Sorry if that's not clear. They'll vote on the money bills, and I think they're trying to reserve any discretionary funding as much as possible to deal with any unanticipated costs as a result of COVID. And then the only other thing I'm hearing is some discussion about addressing public meeting requirements in this new world. Right now, there has to be somebody in the meeting space, as Regina and I are right now in our conference room for every public meeting.
And you're 6 feet apart,
given
right?
this new environment, that's a requirement. So in case anybody from the public wants to show up, but I think we're all trying to go to phone and video conference options. So possibly suspending that requirement during the state of emergency is under discussion, I think, both in the legislature and in the governor's office. So we'll let you know, and I'm sure, it will be news on VLCT's network, and all the municipalities will know as soon as we do if there is action on that front. But that's the only substantive thing I'm hearing them talk about. So happy to answer any other questions, but I think everything else is really on hold in Montpelier.
Charlie?
Yes, sir.
So this is Garrett. Just wondering if this would extend down to planning commission, design review boards, et cetera, that have to adhere to open meeting law. Actually dealing with that this afternoon, so.
Yeah, the requirement is still in state law. There's been a lot of conversation going on back and forth with the Secretary of State and others, state officials, of asking whether that can be suspended, but it is, and the Secretary of State responded, it's a state law requirement. Someone is supposed to be there in case a member of the public shows up. I think a lot of the municipalities have responded by basically saying they're not going to have any of those meetings unless they absolutely have to. For the most part, that means no planning commission, no DRB meetings are happening in the next few weeks. And some towns are having select board or city council meetings if they have essential business, and maybe, approving payments or things like that they have to do. But other than that, well, I guess there's a little bit of a spectrum there, but the law still hasn't gone away yet.
So if I may ask, and I'm sorry to take up everybody's time, if there is a physical location where the public can come and there is at least one person there, and then everybody else is participating virtually, that is legal?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie, this is Dan Karen. Charlie?
Yes.
Yeah, just a comment on this open meeting, suspension of open meeting laws in Vermont. Here in Essex Junction, and also with the Essex Westford School District, our annual meetings are due this coming month in April, and it looks like we're going to possibly cancel and see about rescheduling, and it's still up in the air right now, but opening meeting laws will play into that, what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, similar situations happening in most of the towns. Yep. Yeah, so Mr. Chair, that's the end of my legislative update.
Okay. Let me
world.
just ask if anyone has any comments about any of these things, these items that you noted on the agenda. All right, let's move to the chair. Oops, I'm sorry, who's that? Someone trying to chime in? Oh, okay. We'll move on to the next item here, direct report. Can you hear me okay, Charlie?
Yeah, I can barely hear you, Mike, and if other people can click off their microphone if they're not talking, just we're hearing paper move and stuff like that. So our Unified Planning Work Program is still under development. By the end of this week, we will be sending the last draft over to the UPWP committee. Their last meeting is scheduled for next Thursday. And so, I think we're trying to see which committees we can shut down, but we do want to put our budget and work program together for next year. So we're going to keep going with that path. So sorry, Catherine, we'll try to figure out a virtual meeting that works for you and the other members of the committee for next Thursday. And that's one of the only things we think we really have to vote on before the end of the fiscal year here. So you'll see the next item here is a question to you about whether you're okay not having that April board meeting and delegating the authority for the executive committee to warn the public hearing for the May meeting, at which time you would normally see the full work program and budget for action.
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff. I would make that motion.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Is there a second?
I will second.
That's Garrett. Any discussion?
If the staff can just keep the board appraised, at least by email, about what's going on, that would be helpful, and it would make me feel good about abrogating my authority to, as a commission member, to warn a public hearing.
Okay. That's reasonable. Any other comments? Hearing none. Anyone who's opposed to the motion, please let us know. Any abstentions? Hearing none, that the motion passes. So the executive committee at our next meeting will have the authority to warn the public hearing for May 20th.
Thank you. The last item on my report is just to let you know that our annual ECOS report is out. There's a link here. It's on, I'm sure there's a link on our website if you want to check that out. Normally we'd spend a few more minutes on this, but it doesn't seem that important right now. So that's all I have there. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the ECOS report?
Yeah, and please feel free to follow up if you have any comments or questions if you get a chance to look at it later.
Okay. Next item is committee and liaison activities and reports, and those minutes are in the packet. Anyone on any of those committees want to add anything? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to the next agenda, future agenda topic.
So I guess when we actually drafted this a week or two ago, we thought it would be a good idea, and there was, based on conversation at the last couple of board meetings, to have some more time to talk about other topics that you'd like to see us discuss. COVID-19 has kind of overshadowed all of that. So we will definitely, next meeting, we will talk to our service provider, and then we'll get our budget and UPWP done, and we'll decide what happens for the June meeting. If we're still not supposed to have group gatherings come June, it'll call into question whether or not we have the annual meeting, or at least in the form that we're used to. So if there are other things that people want to hear about what's going on, I think please let us know. And Mike, I don't know if you want to pick this up. I think we were hoping for a stronger discussion here about future items, but frankly, right, things are shifting in terms of priorities, and some of the things that even for the staff perspective, things are slowing down a bit because planning commissions aren't meeting, and even select boards are paring back what they're putting on their agendas.
Right.
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
I would be hopeful that if we couldn't have a traditional June annual meeting, that is an event where we share our accomplishments and information with important constituencies, that the executive committee and the staff would give serious consideration to just postponing it. If for no other reason, then a lot of venues are having events canceled. And if
Right.
they were just postponed, we could use this as our small contribution to helping them get back on their feet and at the same time be able to communicate effectively with our stakeholders and other interested parties and our municipal partners.
So thanks, Jeff. And
Hey,
on
Jeff.
that, Charlie, if I recall correctly, the venue that we had reserved is the Sunset Ballroom on Shelburne Road.
Correct.
Okay. And so Charlie and I talked about it, and we're not canceling at this point. We're going to wait and see what happens until May. If at that point, we have to decide to cancel or postpone, we will do that. But we're going to hang on until some of this clears up and we have a better picture of what we can and can't do, in June.
I mean,
Hopefully that
only
makes
thing
sense.
I would add, Mr. Chair and Charlie, and the rest of the board is nobody knows this bug. Nobody knows what the full curve is going to be. And if it does take 6 months, like some people are saying now, which is absolute rank, pure speculation, it would be kind of good to think about doing something during September and getting that scheduled before there's a flood, and then we don't have the opportunity to share all of our information with our stakeholders. So, I find it hard to believe that that if this is going the way it looks like, which for all the math challenged people out there, this is exponential, not multiplicative, that we're going to be able to do anything in the way of a mass gathering in June. And I doubt we will know by mid-May whether or not we could even do it then. So I'm thinking that look around the bend a little bit and think about September. And that probably would be the earliest.
Okay, but at this point, we don't know if June is not. So I don't think we won't postpone or cancel the June one, but I guess that makes sense to maybe look at.
I'm suggesting we do contingency. I'm just suggesting, Mike, we do contingency planning and recognize that there's a very small chance we're going to be able to do anything in June, given the way this bug has been transpiring around the world.
I hear you. Okay, thanks. Any other comments with that regard?
This is Barbara Elliott. Just as one positive thing that has happened is that we have had a lot less vehicle miles traveled as a result of having this meeting done in this way. So I just want to thank the staff for putting this together. I know it's been a little clunky maybe tonight, but we'll refine it, I'm sure, as time goes on. So I just want to thank you for that.
If I could say, Barbara, thank you for getting us to think about that before we had to. So we had a little bit of a head start thanks to you.
Yeah, and so thank you, staff, and thank you everyone who's on this call for making it happen, getting a quorum. I think it went pretty well. There were some kinks, but overall, I think this went pretty well. I don't know if anyone has any suggestions. If we have to do this again in May or at some future point, any suggestions that you might have with respect to how this might be better handled or done would be appreciated and accepted by me, I know. But before we sign off, I just want to make sure that I thank everyone for joining us. Garrett, did you have something to add?
Yeah, you asked for suggestions. I realize that this is Microsoft Teams is a tool included with Office and all that. I don't know the dollar numbers, but you might want to look into GoToMeeting because it's designed to do presentations. But even more important, it's completely cross-platform, so it works equally well in Windows computers, no matter what browser, and Apple's and Linux even. It doesn't care, whereas this one being Microsoft, they put in restrictions. So just tossing that out. Having worked with GoToMeeting meetings with my clients for many years, they've really got it down. but I don't know how expensive it would be for you.
If I may add to that, I would agree with Garrett that GoToMeeting is a much better program. I also know that a lot of the technology companies right now are offering discounts, packages, and things like that because of the COVID to prevent people from gathering. So I think it's definitely worth looking into and seeing if there's some sort of programs or discounts we can take advantage of.
I'm sorry, who was that?
That was Tony Meklis from
Okay,
Milton.
thanks, Tony. Yep. Any other
I
comments?
would like, this is Catherine. I would certainly like something a little easier if I could see what was going on.
Okay.
This is Jeff, the consultant. I'm with Garrett. GoToMeeting is far superior to this.
Okay, so Charlie, why don't we look into that?
We will. Thank you.
Okay.
Garrett, another
GoToMeeting.com.
Garrett, another great moment in CCRPC history. You and I agree on our second thing in the last 3 months.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Mark it down. So at this point, April there won't be a full board meeting, but we'll work on that, or we'll have that workshop. Plan on a meeting in May. At this point, it looks like it may be another, virtual meeting like we're doing tonight. And executive committee will talk about the annual meeting. Thanks, Jeff, for that comment on the annual meeting as well. So, members' items, any other business?
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
Second, this is Garrett.
Okay, so that was Jeff and Garrett. Anyone opposed to adjourning? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
3 things Jeff
Stay
and I
safe.
agreed on.
Thank you
Good night,
all.
all.
See you.
Thanks, Nick.
Good night.
Help you, everyone.
Bye.